I'm in the process of changing again, and I'm starting to see within myself a very unshakable truth. I am a walking contradiction. Allow me to explain. The more I continue to learn about myself, the more I realize that this life is ultimately meant to be experienced, and, if we're lucky, shared. Now, I've been single for a little over 3 years now, and although I still crave the connection and intimacy that accompanies the act of a relationship, I feel very selective with who I want to have enter in my life. Does that make me a bad person? I don't think so. I think it means that I no longer want to settle for something that's not reciprocal or beneficial to my life. In that same vein, I still hold the desire to create and give the world an insider's gaze into a portion of my psyche, but I still feel an immense apprehension at the thought of being perceived. It's not as if I have anything terrible to hide, except myself. I think if there's something that I'm beginning to realize, it's that I can't rush the process of reinventing and rediscovering myself. A part of me feels like I have to live up to this expectation of who I'd like to become. And don't get me wrong, it's great to have a set of ideals to strive for, but you can't let your ideals take away from your authenticity. You know, it almost feels as if I'm accumulating points to gain some sort of high score. The best way I can describe it is just by saying that it feels like once I reach a certain threshold, I'll have enough information about myself to prove something to you. Kind of like a young and impressionable kid who's eager to show his parents something he's really proud of. I'm sure that's something we can all relate to. The following question began to surface. What exactly am I proud of? I'd say a lot of things. I'm happy to see I've made it this far. And I still haven't given up on myself. I suppose now would be a good time to give you some context. Somewhere around the middle of April, I started contemplating suicide again, which is a very scary thing for me to admit out loud. I found myself in a very deep hole that I couldn't dig my way out of this time around. I think the scariest thing for me was that I didn't realize just how vulnerable I really was. The reason I'm sharing this with you now is not to raise any alarms. I don't think I'd ever find the courage to act on my thoughts. I believe a multitude of factors led me to feel this way. To really feel the way I feel. And looking back, growing up I always felt like I was different than anybody else. Like I never really belonged. And I think some of those thoughts started to cement themselves in a very self-fulfilling manner when I would inevitably mess up or embarrass myself. Why couldn't I do things right the first time around? Why can't I live up to the standards set by other people? What if the conditional judgments that people would hold of me, based entirely on a very acute perception that they'd witness out of sheer happenstance, be something that they might secretly be right about? Maybe I am just a fraud, a failure. Maybe I am better off just not existing to begin with. After all, it'd be much easier to escape the momentary suffering that we endure daily on this godforsaken planet and just trade it all in for an eternity of silence, right? Wouldn't it? Hi there. My apologies for interrupting today's broadcast. However, I have something really important to share with you. Let me just find it. Yeah, so it's around this part of the script where I think I've encountered most of the inner turmoil that I've been facing. Something just didn't sit right with me. And shortly after realizing this, I started to hear something. There was this incessant voice that kept telling me that I had it all misguided. So then I asked myself a very important question. If I had the opportunity to change the way I spoke about myself for 24 hours, what would I change? How about maybe showing myself some compassion and grace given my current condition? What if I started to reframe the way I viewed the things that happened to me with the best possible scenario in mind? Then what? Well, then maybe it'd be me versus me. If I'm the only one that can get myself out of my own head, and that's not to say that I'm above asking for help, where would I start? And what would I do first? Let's try writing down each thought on a piece of paper, Word document, or typewriter. Taking an objective look at the chaos within so that I may begin to accept myself for who I am. Yeah. Which could then lead me to emanate a feeling of peace onto the outermost exterior. You know, it's not a terrible place to start. This shit might actually work. You know, each and every day used to be an exhausting battle with myself. And well, it kind of still is. What if the most rebellious thing I can do for myself is to try and make an effort to wake up each morning and try my hardest to be the best person I can be, so that I can try and make it through the day as unscathed as possible, even if my biggest triumph was simply getting up and out of bed. And at the end of the day, I'm the one who sets my own parameters for how I define success, and that's constantly changing, just as I am, just as you are too. We're in the middle of a colossal planetary shift. Despite all the division and pain that's present within the timeline that we're currently experiencing, I really feel that deep down in my heart, the best thing we can do for ourselves is to show some love and compassion, not only to ourselves, but to others just as much. That's the only way that we can make this world a little bit more palatable for each and every one of us. I've been thinking a lot about this, and I'd be lying to you if I told you that this wasn't a daily occurrence. This is the type of feeling that keeps me restless. There are a lot of things that I want to share with you, and I'm so tired of feeling afraid to do so or pretending like I'm anything less than a complex and multifaceted human being. So what if I have the tendency to be in my head, to be loud, verbose, overly expressive, easily distracted, and a little bit much sometimes? I am me. And that's far more than enough to satiate even the hungriest of appetites. So yeah, maybe I am a walking contradiction that's simply waiting to be unraveled. I suppose my next question to you is, will you join me as I begin to pull the first string?